nearest brewed in Texas.
Hey, it's a sign.
I didn't even know that.
It's an early sign. I didn't know that either. I drank one of those yesterday. Oh yeah, we got a show. Welcome to Nerd Escape,
The comic book podcast.
where we talk about everything underrated and overlooked. I'm your host, Jublar.
And I'm your host, Cami.
Our cadence
What
was a
happened
little
there?
off there. Our cadence got off. Yeah. I think I usually start the comic book podcast.
Yeah.
I forgot to say that part. Well, anyways,
It's all right.
you got the intro.
You know what
always
it is.
A little skitter scatter. You know, we're getting back to the groove of
Skeeter
things.
Huh?
It's something people in Denver say, you know.
No, it's not.
It's the first time I've heard it or said it here, so that's where it's going to be. On today's show, we're featuring an amazing comic book. It's called, or actually, Cami, since you're the one who found this, you introduced this one for us.
Technically, it found me.
Yeah.
My friend Julia gifted it to me for, I want to say, Christmas or birthday, one or the other, but either way, it was introduced. Oh, it was for Christmas because we went up to Dallas and I read like the first volume on that trip.
On the drive, yeah.
But the comic that we're introducing to you guys today is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. It's either Smith or Smythe. Smythe. So
Yeah, Smythe, or would it be Smythe?
who knows? Rachel, correct us.
Yes, Smythe,
Please.
Smythe.
Tell us.
Rachel Smythe, we'll say that, it's glorious. She's a badass in my book.
It's a really good. It's really, really good. It's one of my favorite comic books. I want to say to date. Lore Olympus started off on Tumblr.
Really?
It was first on Tumblr, and then Rachel went ahead and moved it to webcomics to kind of like start really introducing it and getting it pushed out to folks. And so it was first published in May of 2017.
Okay.
And then it officially released in 2018 in March. So it's gone full circle. Right now there's 3 volumes, or at least we've read 3 volumes. The 4th, I think, and the 5th are supposed to be coming out next month in June. So be on the lookout because it is so good. So I'm going to give a little bit background on Rachel. So on IG, her username is used Band-Aid.
Hey, that's a cool name.
And then on Twitter, it's also used Band-Aid, but it's used _Band-Aid. So that's kind of where you can find her. She is a New York Times bestselling author. She's won a Harvey Award and an Eisner Award, all of them for Lore Olympus.
Yes.
So and when I say Rachel, if you didn't know already, she's been producing artwork since about 2004. She graduated from Wanaguni School of Design in New Zealand with a bachelor's in computer graphics and design. So the skill is there.
She's New Zealand.
She's got the skills. Lore Olympus.
She's a Kiwi.
I don't know about that.
New Zealanders are Kiwis.
Oh, it's up there. That's their bird, right?
Yeah, that's what they call it. They're like, oh, you're a Kiwi. And I imagine they get mad, annoyed by it.
Probably. So, Rachel, as she has...
I take it back.
Wow. Rachel, as she has like really created her books and her comics and things like that, she has taken the standpoint of she writes as if she is the director of a movie, TV. So a lot of her the way her stories are set up, they kind of give off, at least in my opinion, that kind of like quirky, cute, fun, like sitcom situation. So like you're having fun, but there's some drama involved, and so it's very laid out, and she does a really good job with like setting a tone in her work. When Rachel started on Lore Olympus, she was spending between 60 and 70 hours.
I can see that
Creating it.
Oh man, the Trials of Making a Comic Book. I could see it. It's beautiful though.
It really is, and you can tell, like, you can really tell how much work she's put into it, and like, I can only imagine like the editing process and like sending it off and trying to figure all of that out. But just the mere fact that she has, like, in the very beginning, spent 60 to 70 hours creating this, boy, oh boy, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And hopefully she wasn't doing it in like a few days, because that would be absolutely exhausting. So before Rachel created, and I always put Lore Olympus, at least in my notes, I put it as LO, because LO,
that's pretty
cool. So before she started LO, she had 2 other comics that she created, or stories she created. One was called The Dr. Pepper Show, and the other was The Dr. Foxglove Show. So the Dr. Pepper Show was a NSFW. So
what?
It is what it is. It's not safe for work.
Oh, I don't know what that meant.
Yeah, so NSFW is not safe for work.
Okay,
and so
I'm learning what that is.
Something happened while she was creating it and releasing it, to the point where like she completely stopped making it, and then she kind of like revamped it, and it turned into the Dr. Foxglove Show. And
Dr. Foxglove.
It was a little bit less not safe for work, but it was like a whole different story.
Foxglove.
So yeah, that's what we have for Rachel.
We love to give credit where credit's due. Shout out to Rachel Smythe. Smith, if it is that. We should really look up the artist pronunciation.
Well, apparently Google doesn't do correct pronunciation of stuff, that's
Rachel Smythe.
It is what it is.
Yeah. And I will give this context of Lore Olympus and like the story. It is a wonderful retelling of the Greek mythology story of Persephone and Hades. And it is a modern retelling with gods like Hades and Zeus and Poseidon. You know, they wear nice suits and they have parties and they go to brunch together, and, you know, they drink mimosas. And it's kind of this, it really is a true modern version where Hades goes to his job, and it's, you know, the underworld, and he runs it, and he makes sure like all the souls are being guided to the right area. And it's a very cool, like night, kind of like even the gods play. You can go out for a beer to the club or something, and they got relationship problems, and the gods have iPhones that they talk to each other on. So it kind of puts you as a modern person in our era, like our technology and everything, and puts you right into the story where you understand what's going on immediately. And with gods, you're gonna have parties, and you're gonna run into other goddesses, and you're gonna fall in love and stuff like that. So this story is basically Hades and Persephone's meeting in like kind of a fashion where they're both at a party. Hades sees her, and he thinks she's the most beautiful woman in the world. Beautiful goddess in the world, saying beating Aphrodite in that way. And basically they have the kind of quirky events that happen where she ends up at his house, and it's like this weird, like she's really drunk, and he puts her into bed, and then, you know, they wake up and they have like kind of like coffee and chats together, and it's very flirty. And honestly, it's done very, very well. I read volume 1 when Cami got it, and that was, you know, probably almost a year ago. And then when we decided we were gonna do this episode, I read it again, and it is so easy to read through. Like, she read it on a whole like 2.5 hour car ride, and she was just like, this is like really good and really good to read. And the character interactions are just great. And so basically it's just kind of a, I don't know, would you say like we're talking like not rom-com, but it's like a rom sitcom, you know, like,
I mean, that's what a rom-com is.
Well, rom-com is like just all comedy. Rom sitcom, yeah, I guess so. But it has funny stuff in it. And even for me,
it is a romantic drama.
Yeah, it's a romantic drama, but it's fun too. It's like really fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it caught me in the feels, like just like keeping me in with like all the different kind of characters. Yeah, and so it's almost reminds me of a housewife show, like, you know, that kind of has that style. Yeah,
like a young. Well, yeah, because the gods they're really old, but they're also young.
We'll slap you in the face with this. Hades is supposed to be like over 2,000 years old in this, and Persephone is like a new goddess.
She's like just now turning,
yes,
what, 18, 19?
I think she's 19 years old. And, you know, it kind of, they don't go crazy into the lore. They might tell you another little silly, another story on the side that kind of describes another character. But Persephone's 19, and we'll get into the real story a little bit later. How would you describe one of our main characters, Persephone?
She is sweet, caring, but naive. And the only reason for that is because of her mother. Yes. But otherwise, I think...
Who's her mother?
Demeter. So, she's... I like to call her Core. I don't really like to call her Persephone because Core is her other alias. And so she's just really sweet, really caring, like seeing the best in people. And she just has a really fun, loving spirit. But it just kind of bites her the butt because she just doesn't realize that not everyone is going to be out there to protect you and keep you safe and really cares for you. So she's a great character in the sense of like she is that loving character, but the naivety is a double-edged sword.
Yes, and you're the she's the goddess of spring, I believe.
Yes.
And her mother's like Demeter.
No, Demeter.
Demeter is the goddess of like nature and like, agriculture and stuff
like
that. Harvest. And Core or Persephone is going off to like college, and she has a scholarship to like kind of get with the upper gods. But yeah, she's very naive because she hasn't been around like, the three big gods, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, and of course all the other gods.
I mean, I don't think she's really been around many of the gods or goddesses.
Yes, no, Apollo. They had been around Apollo, had been around Hermes, and Eros, and so she's like the new kid in the club, and people are gonna get jealous and do like tricks on her. But yeah, and some people take advantage of her, and it's really sad. But Hades, instantly loves her, and then that love connection in the
I thought you were going to say the pod, which is funny because I watched too much of Love is Blind and they're in pods, and I was just like, yeah, they were kind of in a pod.
But just like the love connection, the flirting, and like the cute like stuff, and Persephone gets her first phone and she's like, oh my god, put your number in this, and like, so it's like cute how naive she is sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the trading off to that, I said Hades loves Persephone. What do you think of Hades?
He's a cool dude. I probably would prefer him out of all of the big gods, out of his brothers.
Yeah.
Only because Hades seems a little bit more like down to earth. But
really?
Sorry, I wasn't originally thinking about it as a pun, but as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, oh, that's a good one. He is definitely, again, down to earth. And he does not, granted, he can be a little bit of a butthole because, he's a god.
Oh, yeah.
And he's used to living this certain kind of lifestyle. He's not used to having someone who kind of like, kind of ruffles his feathers, but in a good way. So he's also nice, but everyone also picks on him. So he's also mean. So it's kind of one of those things. He's battling with himself and the people around him. But you can tell that he cares about Core, and you can tell that he wants to be different than what he has been.
Yes.
He's definitely... He's doing what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm. My general characteristics were he's lonely guy, kind of a lonely guy, lives alone. But lonely guy.
He's got like 10 dogs.
Yeah, he has like 10 dogs, and not just what's his name? Cerberus. And he's dating his like secretary, who's like a nymph. Mm-hmm. And she's like standing him up on dates while he like goes to like Zeus's birthday party and stuff. And so he's kind of looking for love. He's looking for love. He's looking for someone to settle with. But yeah, I put down he's a genuinely nice guy. At least he's portrayed in this, like, this comic, this modern telling. But it's done so well, like you're almost like cheering for the guy. Like
no, 100%. Yeah, because I think at some point, well, we'll get into it a little bit later.
Yeah, and there's other characters. Of course, there's Zeus. Zeus is kind of just like Zorp. Zorp is like
It's like, what is that?
but sometimes Zeus is like, he's the brother who's like, let's go to brunch now to the strip club, and then Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades are like banned from there.
Yeah.
And Zeus just wants to know what's up, and then of course Hera, his wife, is like always on him to make sure he's not doing any like shady stuff because Zeus be cheating, going around.
Zeus be Zeus,
and there's Poseidon, and Poseidon is pretty much just like the dim-witted brother out of all three of them.
Yeah, he's really low key.
Apollo, they kind of made him an airhead. I'll say it, fuckboy. He really is. Apollo is a fuckboy, and yeah, he's just basically that. Nice car, the jacket around his shoulder with his like almost pompadour hair. Hermes. He flies around. He's the messenger of the gods.
Yeah.
He's just kind of
he's a sweetheart.
He's a sweetheart, but he's still kind of an airhead. Maybe that's since he's flying around. So he's just like, ciao. Yeah.
I mean, but he's Hermes, so he's like part of that love culture. So he's really sweet. And he's an airhead, but
Eros.
Eros, yeah.
Eros is great. He's a good character. He's kind of like the flamboyant like best friend, But like you'll text him and he'll be like, "Oh, I'm taking care of this orgy right now. Could you stop?"
Yeah.
But yeah, with the characters, and it's a great Greek retelling, and it has all these characters, and the characters have their own characteristics, and you might get a flashback on like half a issue, and it might be someone's like story arc, and it's done really well.
Yeah, it is nice to kind of have those multiple POVs from the different characters. It can get a little bit, I'm not sure if the word is onerous, but it's really paying attention to each character, because sometimes you can get lost in the story because you're really, really paying attention to how everything is flowing together and really understanding the background between Hades and Persephone, that sometimes the other characters get a little bit lost in the sauce. But I will say that it's very beneficial to really look at all the POVs as a whole and really, really like grasp those stories, because it does help to kind of understand the impact that each character has on the relationship between Persephone and Hades.
Oh yeah, that's true. It all kind of goes back to Persephone's in this. With the Greek retelling, I wanted to have a segment where we talked about real Greek mythology here. I don't know what to call this segment. It's like Greek mythology story.
No, thank you.
We'll keep that out. We just wanted to go and I wanted to actually tell y'all the real story of Persephone, because it's not as
you should say the original story.
So the original. And they're all retellings,
yeah.
Find different versions,
retelling, but
it's like some poet rewrote the whole thing, and it's told in different ways. There's slightly different versions.
Yeah.
But in this version, Hades sees Persephone and he instantly falls in love. He sees her, so he confides his secret to Zeus, and the two concoct a plan to trap her. As Persephone was playing and picking flowers, with some water nymphs. Basically, they lured her out. There's a story part where Gaia makes a flower. Persephone has to go. She's attracted to the flower, so she walks away from the water nymphs. And the Zeus and Hades split the earth, and she falls into the underworld. Persephone slips beneath the earth, and Hades stole her to the underworld, where he made her his wife. Persephone was very unhappy. But it's told after a time, we'll just say that, she grew to love the cold-blooded Hades, and they lived happily ever after. But with that, there's another side of this story. Demeter, her mother, goes on a hunt for Persephone. She found out Hades took her. She goes to the underworld, basically. Demeter goes to the underworld, finds Hades, and she begs Hades to let Persephone come back to the mortal world. Hades and Zeus decide that Persephone can go back to live on Earth for 8 months out of the year. It's like 6 to 8 months out of the year. And so for 4 months, she will be in the underworld. And this story, Greek story, is associated with the coming of spring and winter. So when Persephone leaves the underworld, winter comes and winter stays. And then when she goes back, she's happy she's back, so spring happens. But when she finds out she has to go back, the fall comes and the winter comes. So I always thought that was a pretty cool thing. And we'll see if they like throw that into the, you know, the tie-up of Lore Olympus.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. We're also going to have a segment where we share, me and Cami share our favorite Greek mythology story, or one that, you know, that we could think of and caught our eye. So Cami, want to kick us off with your Greek mythology story?
Sure. I'm going to say I never really had a big... I never really got into Greek mythology. It was always intriguing to me. And of course you learn it in high school for the most part. But the writing for Greek mythology, anything written back then, whatever, was so dense. And to me, it just didn't make sense. And I was like, I hate this. I'm not paying attention. So I never really paid attention. There's plenty of stories that I heard and kind of like picked on. Like, so Icarus was one of those big things, because it's like the homie flew too close to the sun because his daddy made him mad. So it's like,
was that the story?
Something like that.
She's like, he made his daddy mad.
No. I think his dad made him mad, so he flew too close to the sun.
Okay, yeah.
Don't quote me on that. So I'm telling you, I got bits and pieces. But as an adult, I've been like really intrigued and trying to find retellings of the stories, because I need something that's going to be modern. I can't do the old school originals. So one author, her name is Madeline Miller, she creates a lot of retellings of she's done Circe, she's done Achilles, and recently she did a, like, I don't even know how many pages, I want to say it's like 20 pages, but basically a retelling of Galatea. So that was very intriguing to me, because when I read it, because it was just off the fly, I was like, oh, I want to read Madeline Miller, but all her other books are super big, so I'm going to read this really short book. And Galatea was it. So the story of Galatea, so it starts off with, his name is Pygmalion. Look, don't shoot me. Anyways, he was a king, but he was also a sculptor, and he was using ivory and creating these like really large statues. So one day he created a sculpture that depicted his ideal woman. And because of this, he fell in love with his sculpture because he thought it was so beautiful. He was like, wow, this is a lovely woman. He's like, wow, this is what a woman should look like, and this is what a woman should be like. Cold, pale, and cute. So
wow.
So, you know, he's constantly like loving on his statue, and this is the story. He is kissing his statue, he's hugging it, he's caressing her, putting clothes on his sculpture, the whole nine. So Venus, the goddess, she hears his pleas, his prayers, and basically makes Galatea a real woman. It's almost like Pinocchio.
There you go.
So Venus grants his prayers, and then I'm gonna just call him PY. PY goes, he marries Galatea. He marries a statue. And the story is like, he didn't know if like she was actually real, because he was like, is it the sun? Like, is she actually warm? Is she like, because she was sitting out in the sun, like he was like, I don't know if she's real. I'm kissing her, her lips feel soft, but I'm not sure if she's. So he ends up marrying a statue, and then they end up having kids together.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. And so I think there's another part of the story where a Cyclops falls in love with Galatea, and PY gets real big mad, and I think he kills one of the kids.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So the story of Galatea. And what's really funny is, thing about PY is that he actually hates women.
Oh damn.
He hates women. So that's why he built this like, he didn't like that women were doing like really good things and great things, like the gods and the goddesses, they were doing the damn thing, and he was upset about that. And so that's why he built the sculpture and he put it in the way he would like a woman. Again, cold, pale, quiet. So yeah, that is the story of Galatea.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good story. I mean, creepy, but good.
Very creepy.
My favorite story, it's always been I looked it up. I always say Arachne, but I think it's Arachne. That's how it's pronounced. It only has one E. So, the story of Arachne. She was a poor girl. Her family was poor. Dad was a fisherman. I think her mom, sewed stuff together.
Okay, so she was a seamstress.
Seamstress. There you go. Thank you. Came in for the same.
No problem.
And so Arachne, being the seamstress daughter, started doing some, making tapestries and, starting to use silk and, working with threads. And, people didn't think much about it. But one day her dad, who's a fisherman, he brought some seashells back. And some seashells had purple color, like blue color. Arachne took the seashell and she took that color and she used it to put it on her threads. And it is told her family made the color royal purple, started putting it into clothing, making clothing and tapestries. And soon enough, Arachne becomes the best seamstress in the land, and some crowds gather together and watch her work. And some will talk and be like, oh, she puts Athena to shame. Athena's the goddess of many things, but she's also the goddess of, tapestries and seaming and sewing. And so Arachne hears this. And she starts to believe herself, like, maybe I am better than Athena. And,
hell yeah.
Hey, don't provoke the gods, Athena. I'm not provoking you at all. But she starts to think that. And then one day it is told, she says it out loud, that she thinks she is just as good or if not better than Athena's. So one of her work she did, she's like, yeah, this is way better. Boom, right when she says that, thunder strikes and everyone turns around. There's a feeble, really wrinkly, hunched over old lady in like a dirty cloth, and she says, take back what you said about the gods, don't invoke them, and if you take back what you said right now, you will be forgiven. And of course Arachne, being rational, goes, hey old lady, go talk to your own kids like that, don't tell me how to live. And then boom, the old lady turns into Athena, and Athena challenges her to a seamstress battle, I guess. A
sew-off.
A sew-off. Dun, 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 dun. They had a sew-off. You just got sewed. And basically, Athena makes some crazy, beautiful tapestry. There's, this beautiful one by Athena. It's so beautiful, people's breath are taken away, blah, blah. And then Arachne makes hers, and Arachne makes a tapestry that dictates that it's Zeus and like Hades and like Poseidon and all these gods like doing mischief and like messing with the humans and like basically putting them in a really bad light. And
as they deserve.
Yeah, and I believe Athena's was the opposite. It was like mortals invoking the gods and like punishing for it. And
Athena's crazy.
So Athena straight up ripped Arachne's tapestry to shreds, hit her in the head with this a little staff weapon. I guess it's like the bottom of her staff. And boom, on the spot where she hit her, Arachne starts to shrivel inward and she turns into a spider, as they would call them back in the days, a spinner. And Arachne, little creature, runs into a corner and makes a web. And Athena's punishment for invoking the gods and not being respectful to them is you will sew and stream for the rest of your life, basically. So you're a spider now. And then that spider had more kids, and that's supposedly where we get spiders from. And her name is Arachne, like arachnid. So I thought that was pretty cool when I heard that one. So that's one of my favorites.
Athena's a bitch.
Yes.
I mean, really, all the gods are. They're just terrible people.
I mean, I think with that, if there were like invisible gods standing next to you and guiding you, and supposedly what part of the story is Athena was the one who sent those she-cells to her dad in the first place. So it was like,
she did it on purpose.
I was by his side. And so
that's crazy.
I mean, I think gods do good things, but then, I mean, the Greek, they do. But the Greek mythology thing is like,
what good have they done?
I'm sure there's some good stuff that they've granted to humans back in the Greek days. Hey, man, I believe in the god of love, okay? Whatever 9-armed century nervous system of a god that's floating around in space and just, just like that's my God I pray to. I'm like, whatever weird mass you are out there, just let it be a good day. You know, that's it. Okay, you feel me?
No, but all right.
Well, with that, we'll go to a old segment. I don't know why I call it segment. It's just two questions. It's literally two questions.
This is just a whole episode. We're not breaking it up to segments.
The
question.
The final questions of the episodes you always ask. You know what it is. Cami, what was your favorite thing about Lore Olympus?
The story was great, but I would have to say the colors in the story are my favorite thing. They are very bright and vibrant, and they help you to distinguish who the characters are. Because I think if it were set in like a very like your classical like Roy G. Biv kind of setting, where everyone kind of looks the same, everyone looks human, then we kind of be the multiple points of view, we'd get lost in the sauce, and we don't want to do that. But the vibrant colors really help us to see the characters and understand the characters, but it also helps to set the tone and the mood of the story. Rachel does a brilliant job with setting the tone with the colors and the overlay. She does a really, really damn good job on it. So colors of the story, hit it off. The story as a whole, beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, and the color, we didn't talk much about the art. We just have like a whole segment for that. But Hades, like for instance, Hades is always blue. He has this like kind of like darker blue about him. Persephone's pink. And Demeter is green, Zeus is purple. So it has like color codes for everything, but they're done so well. And with that, I think I realized my favorite thing while we're recording this episode, it's how, because you said it took her so long, it took her 70 to 80 hours.
Or she, when she first started creating it, she was taking up 60 to 70 hours, like making storyboards.
Like a week, you'd say?
I would hope she's like putting it together in a week versus like, I would hope she's doing it in a week's time versus her doing it in like 3 days. Because that 60 to 70 hours in 3 days, that's a freaking lot of time. Yeah.
And it's just, for me, that's what I've realized my favorite thing is. It's how it flows. So it's like, sometimes she has like little, honestly, she has like little like anime, like little cutesy, like, you know, how anime artists will draw the character like looking like a cat or like, you know.
I mean, I think it's just cartooning animation in general. It's
so it has a cartoon vibe, but just the way like the storyboard goes, it makes you hit so much emotion and like the position of people and like just, you can tell what a character is thinking just from their facial expression or how their body language transitions from the next panel. So I will say the panel work. Like I just realized that making this, I was going to say something like the story or like even the art, but I realized recording this when you brought that up, I was like, she spent that much time. I could tell because it's done so well, keeps you intrigued. And sometimes I've realized I was like reading too fast. I was like, okay, slow down.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's awesome.
Right.
And yeah, characters are great. It's just it's already very popular, but I'll say this, like I said, we do underappreciated, overlooked, and I still think in the general like comic book, you know, overlord Marvel DC world, Lore Olympus stands out from that. And who edited this? It was Del Rey, publisher Del Rey.
That's the publisher,
All
but
right. Shout out to Del Rey. Lore Olympus is amazing.
Very good.
Last question, Cami, what's your favorite character?
Hades.
Hades.
Because he's kind of, again, he's that guy you want to, you're like, Hades is a bad guy. But in this story, he's really not the bad guy. He's fun, he's quirky, again, he's lonely, but he cares for Persephone. He cares about kind of the way he lives his life. And there was like at one point where I was just like, in the story, it was just like, is he really a good guy? But overall, he's like a good guy, just portrayed in a different light because the people around him don't want to see him happy. That's what it is. So he's just anxious. He's an anxious boy.
Yes, he is. My favorite character, if I'm pronouncing this right, is Hades. You call it a secretary or his like right hand.
I want to say she's like his PR person.
Like a PR person, yeah. Hesite. that the name? Yeah, Hesite. She's just,
I don't know.
when they had to like torture someone, they both were like doing it. Like,
yeah.
And it was like it's done very well. And she's just always, she's the one checking Hades, but knows, like, we'll be like, hey, Persephone's too young for you. But then Hesite's like, wait, he does actually love her. Like, you know, she looks out for Persephone, but then she's like, oh wow, like you actually do love her. Okay, let me like try to like work something out. And then I would say Eros, he's done very well.
Eros is good, yeah.
So he's the son of Aphrodite, and now I'm thinking about it, Aphrodite has all these kids because she's like the god of like lust and love and, you know, and reproduction or whatever. And Eros is like taking care of all of his siblings, and his siblings are like really cute. Like, what was it? One of them was like, "You want to see my hamster?" And he's like, "One of them, no one wants to see your stupid hamster."
Eros was like, no one wants to see your hamster.
And he's there to support Persephone when she goes through some stuff, and she's kind of like his confidant, and just like he's just makes you laugh. Like he's super comic relief. Like he puts on the fur coat, and he's just like kind of being all fashionable. You have to read it yourself. If you start, I think if you buy the first volume, you're going to keep going. Yeah, 100%. Because it's just, you want to know more. So yeah, that is Lore Olympus by Rachel Smythe. I see it all over the bookstores. I'm sure you can, if you wanted to go to her website, I'm sure she has a website where you can download and, you know, buy and download these webtoons as is. But the books are really nice too. They're big boys, and they're.
I have the hard copies because they're nice. The covers are so nice. I think they're the Barnes and Noble's hardcovers. They're beautiful. I love them. So I'm looking forward to volumes 4 and 5 coming out very soon. Yeah,
sometime. And it's a modern comic book. You know, you don't got to go volume or issue hunting for these.
No,
they're in plenty because they're a modern comic book. But thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely.
If you haven't already, follow us on Instagram. Give us a like anywhere you're listening on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcast. Until then, this has been Nerd Escape,
the comic book podcast,
where we talk about everything underrated and overlooked.
I'm your host, Cami.
I'm your host, Jublar.
And, you know, as we do, we'll see you in the next one.
It's great to be back.
Or you'll hear us in the next one, you know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Toodles.